Since the time of the bubonic plague in the 1400s, the growth of the world's population has been expanding tremendously. Between the time of the plague and the 21st century, there have been endless wars, natural catastrophes, and man-made accidents. And while some of these disasters affected certain populations in the short term, take the plague for example, that wiped out 30 to 50% of Europe's population, in the long term, none of these devastating events affected the ever-increasing population in a global sense. The population has skyrocketed from 1 billion people in the 1800s to 2.3 billion people in 1940 to 3.7 billion in 1970 to 7.6 billion today. That's an over 700% increase in the world's population in just over 200 years. But before exploring what the global impact has been and solutions to this dilemma, we must look at the many factors that contributed to this massive increase in the population of our planet.
There have been many factors contributing to the growing world population, spanning from religious beliefs to lack of birth control to child labor to the subjugation of women, the advancements in medicine, and the ever-increasing life expectancy of women and people. Let's first examine how religious beliefs made an impact. It is clear that political leaders around the world have and still do influence their societies, but those that lead religious beliefs also have a tremendous impact. Though there are exceptions, most teachings of the world's religions glance down upon birth control. In both the Old and New Testaments, a faithful or orthodox follower of either Judaism and Christianity would not use contraceptive methods. For example, in the Old Testament, there's a passage that reads, "Be fruitful and multiply," which many Orthodox believers intercept to mean that God wants people to have as many children as possible. It is also the teaching of Catholic faith and many other religions that sex should be an act shared by a married couple only, and therefore no contraception has been produced for the public. With no contraception readily available, whether people are married or not, the population increased. This was one factor that heavily contributed to the population explosion.
Even in countries where religion was not the only factor that contributed to the population explosion, the subjugation of women in many of these lands played a big part in the global problem. The subjugation, or attempt to dominate or control women, has played a part in the population problem in the following way. In many male-dominated societies, women were and still are seen as second-class citizens. In these nations, a man feels that it is his sole right to be sexually active whenever he wants to. This led to many pregnancies, and the more children a woman had, the more time was needed for her to be home taking care of the children's needs, keeping her out of the workforce. Still today, in many of these countries, women are prohibited to be in the workforce and are tied to the ever-growing needs of their often increasing families.
Poverty has also been a huge factor in overpopulation, and in relation to poverty, a vicious cycle occurs. Poor nations with poor families need and still need money desperately. The more children a family has, the more people in that family could be sent to work, and the more income could be made. While it might not seem like a direct cause of overpopulation, the fact that children could work was incentive for parents to produce as many children as possible to help support the family. This has and still is an incentive for most people in developing countries to have as many children as possible, and yet the more children that a family has, the more mouths there are to feed, to buy clothes, to provide shelter, and this contributes to the continued poverty and as well as overpopulation. All of these causes mentioned so far fall under the umbrella of overpopulation and impoverished nations because in these poor countries there tend to be less money and far less opportunity for education and success.
Another huge factor that contributed to the growing world population has been the tremendous advancement of medicine. In past centuries, people used to die all the time from simple infections, the common cold, etc. But as medicines were discovered, people began surviving all of these simple ailments. What was once a death sentence became simply an inconvenience, and population increased dramatically. As late as the beginning of the 20th century, illnesses like the Spanish influenza of 1918 killed somewhere between 20 and 50 million people. Yet over the past century, the huge advancements in medicine have kept people alive who would have surely died in years past. The discovery of penicillin in 1928 was tremendously important as it kept many soldiers alive during World War II who would have died from infection, and has been keeping people alive all over the world. While this is a wonderful advancement for all, it did contribute to the population explosion in a significant way. Now that we have discussed some causes of the population explosion, we must look at the global impact of this dramatic increase in the number of people on Earth. Naturally, the more people there are, the more natural resources are depleted. The more people, the more food and water are needed to keep these people alive. As demands increased, people headed out of their rural neighbors and into the cities to get more work. With advancements in technology and the Industrial Revolution, which took place from approximately 1760 to 1840, factories began mass production of food and other items in order to meet the demands of the ever-growing population. This meant that more garbage and toxic waste was created and the air people breathed was less healthy. The need for things like oil and gas increased, as well as drilling in areas of natural beauty became necessary. Places in nature that were once beautiful were now totally destroyed because of the Industrial Revolution. With the destruction of forests, many species of animals are becoming extinct, and this began to affect the animal populations of the other species, as many species live symbiotically with each other. If one species dies out, the others will follow. Also, the tremendous increase in the need for more and more products requires more and more factories. Toxic gases, etc., are sent into the atmosphere, and this contributes to global warming, the incremental raising of the Earth's temperature over time, and this contributes to the melting of the polar ice caps. If something is not done to prevent this, areas will flood, and coastal towns around the world may soon be underwater. So, what is being done to help combat overpopulation and the side effects of this growth? One thing being done is Bill Gates of Microsoft and his wife Melinda are running a foundation where one of their main goals is the following: to bring access to high quality contraceptive information, services, and supplies to an additional 120 million women and girls in the poorest countries by 2020 without discrimination, with the longer term effect of access to voluntary family planning. So, in conclusion, it is crucial for all nations to do their part because without population control, we will ruin our home. If we, as a global team, are able to help undeveloped countries morally, ethically, and humanely, we will help our planet and all of its inhabitants.